Hello everybody, Jamie Jan, Non-Toxic Farm Mom. Thanks for joining me in my very messy kitchen. But today I want to show you how I make my elderberry syrup. I know that we are headed into fall. We are still in a COVID pandemic. It's flu season, if there is such a thing anymore, cold season, and if you're like me, you are always looking for ways to boost your family's immune system. And I know elderberry is something that people are hearing a lot about, right? We hear more and more and more about it, and my family has been using it for a few years, and so I have kind of come up with my own recipe, what works best for my family, and I want to share that with you. So that's what we're going to do today. So thanks for following along. As always, I will put links below. I will tell you where I get my favorite ingredients. I will tell you the way that I do things. Be sure to do some of your own research because elderberry syrup has pros and cons. Elderberries are amazing. They are one of God's gifts in nature for a natural way to boost your immune system. It has antiviral properties and just lots of antioxidants in them. But there are some people who should not have elderberry syrup. So do your research. It can be harmful to people who have autoimmune diseases. So just do your research before you do it. And thanks for following along. So I am going to show you how we do things. So here we go. Okay, so before we officially get started, I want to show you the things that you will need to make elderberry syrup, and we will talk a little bit about them, but I've kind of laid everything out here. You're obviously going to need a pan because you are going to cook the elderberries for a little bit to get that syrup nice and yummy and full of good stuff. You're going to need some elderberries. Today we're going to use dried elderberries. These are actually elderberries from my elderberry trees or bushes. I have 4 of them in my yard that I am super blessed and excited about, but there are other places that you can get elderberries, and I will make sure I post some links below. You can actually get good ones from Amazon. There are several herbal places that you can get your own elderberries from. And then a few other key ingredients. Everybody makes their elderberries a little bit different. The elderberry syrup a little bit different. I like to use organic cinnamon sticks, okay? I use 3. I love cinnamon. Cinnamon also has some pretty amazing benefits, some very good natural benefits. So we want to add other ingredients that are going to help work right alongside our elderberries. So this is one of my favorite ingredients to add. Organic cloves. I use whole cloves and I just dump. I do not measure. I also like cloves. Cloves have some amazing goodness in them. So I love the flavor. I love that it helps offset the bitter taste. We're gonna, elderberries just are naturally bitter. So we're going to add some flavor and some good things from other things in nature. Ginger. I'm sure if you are following along, you know the good properties of ginger. So we are going to slice and peel. Oh, I would probably use about this whole fat end down here. I like a lot of ginger. Ginger is super good, chock full of good, healthy things as well. And then you're going to need some local honey, okay? Local honey is always best because then you are getting the goodness that nature intended locally to help with allergies and all kinds of things. So we are going to use this, but this goes in last. So because it has honey in it too, remember children, little children probably will not benefit as much from this. You need to be careful giving children, under 1 honey. So I would say nobody under 1 should get this. But again, do your own research. And then of course you'll need some water. You'll need some jars to store your elderberry syrup in. You will need some kind of a wire mesh colander or cheesecloth. Cheesecloth will work fine too, whichever one you have. I like this one because it fits into this cup and this is what I use. And you'll see how I use that in a little bit. Elderberry syrup can be canned, but I typically freeze ours. So I usually store our extra in just half-pint jelly jars, and then I stick it in the freezer, have it labeled. It thaws really easily. You can shake it up, and then you're ready to go. What I put in our refrigerator for us to use will go in a jar like this, okay, because it's easier to pour out of. So this is an old apple cider vinegar jar that I saved. Or, you know, you can buy a jar like this, okay? Whatever you store in the refrigerator will be good for about 3 weeks. So just, you know, keep that in mind as far as the size of your jar. Okay, we are ready to put all of these ingredients into this pot and get going. So when I make my elderberry syrup, I use 3 cups of water. You will see different amounts. Like when you go, if you're searching this on YouTube and you're looking at different people's instructions or videos, you will see that everybody has a different recipe, different amounts of ingredients. So really you can make it to suit what suits you best. I use 3 cups of water. I use about a cup of dried elderberries. If you're using fresh elderberries, you can use less. I use about a cup. You will see that I have some stems and pieces in there. You will also read differing opinions about that. But because we're going to be cooking this and bringing it to a boil, I do not worry about the little pieces of stems. So I'm going to pour that. And honestly, I don't have very much left in this jar, and these are from last year. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use this entire jar, just because I don't want to mix them with this year's, just because, you know, they were from last year. And so I get those all in there, give them a little stir. Another little tip, these little packets that help keep moisture out of things, like if you get vitamins or anything like that, I save these strips for just this purpose, to help absorb any moisture, and I put them down in my dried elderberry jars just to keep them, you know, in case something wasn't quite dehydrated. I don't have to worry about that moisture. Okay, so we've got our elderberries, our water. We're gonna add 3 organic cinnamon sticks, 1, 2, 3. We're going to add that hunk of ginger that I told you about. I went ahead and peeled it, and we're gonna dice it up and drop it in there. And then our organic cloves. And I do not measure, and I also didn't take the lid off. Oops. I really do not measure. I kind of just dump. So if you don't enjoy the flavor of cloves, then you'll probably want to put a little bit less in. I encourage you to put some in, because you guys, cloves are so good for you. I encourage you to read up on all of these ingredients that I'm putting in, and I will try to include some links down below. But cloves and cinnamon and ginger all have amazing immune boosting properties and antiviral properties, antibacterial properties. You are going to love the goodness that you're getting from these, as well as your elderberries. Plus, it does make your elderberries taste better. All right, so then you're just going to give this a stir. We are going to turn it on, and we are going to bring it to a boil. Okay, while this is coming to a boil, I want to give you a couple of my tips and tricks. Okay, you will see that I've switched from my wooden spoon to my handy dandy Pampered Chef. I call it a masher thingy, but I know it probably has a better name. I use this with my ground beef and all kinds of things. But as the water starts to rehydrate your berries, you really want to try to mash them, okay? You want to get all the goodness out of them that you can. So I start stirring a little bit. You don't have to stir constantly, and then I come back and mash. If you don't have one of these handy dandy little masher things, then just get a spoon and use the back of the spoon and kind of mash them against the side like this, okay? And we are just going to bring this to a boil. So I wanted to talk about that while this is coming to a boil. All right, so you will see differing opinions and different directions
on people who make elderberry syrup. Okay, so one of the things you need to know about anything that you use, you know, directly from nature, obviously the more you cook it, the more it loses its healthy properties, right? So same with elderberry. So you will see some people will tell you that they will bring it to a boil and then they will turn it down and they will simmer it for like an hour or more, like until half of the liquid is reduced. Okay, so it's till it's like reduced by half. That helps, I think, probably make it a little bit thicker, not as runny. But I have found that because I want all the goodness left in, as much goodness as I can, I bring it to a boil and then I only simmer for about 5 minutes. I want it to retain as much of those healthy properties and benefits as we can get. So I do not boil it, or I do not simmer it for an hour. I have done a lot of research and I have read that there, you know, we don't have to worry about any of the harmful things that, you know, are in the little stems. You know, there is a little, just like apple seeds have, you know, cyanide in them, so do the stems and pieces of elderberry. But you have brought it to a boil, so you have nothing to worry about. And we are taking this on a daily basis, you know, like 1 tablespoon or 1 teaspoon a day, depending on whether you're a kid or an adult. So it's not like you're drinking a whole entire bottle in one sitting. So I am comfortable with that for me and my family. My children are older, and we do not drink this all the time. Like we will drink it, you know, 2 or 3 weeks on. We'll take some preventatively. And then if we do get sick, we up our dose. So again, do your research, do what's comfortable for you and your family. You know, if you want to simmer it for an hour, then by all means do that. I just do not feel comfortable doing that because I do not feel like it's maintaining all of the goodness that I want from these elderberries. All right, so you can see it's starting to come together. I'm going to mash it up a little bit more and we're gonna wait for it to come to a boil. All right, there we go. It's come to a boil. So I am gonna turn this down to just 1 or 2 to pretty much medium low. And then again, I'm gonna get my masher or the back of my spoon and I am just gonna let it simmer for about 5 minutes and just mash it and get that goodness, that yummy, yummy goodness out of each of those berries.
Okay, it's finished and it smells so amazing. Okay, so I brought it to a boil. I let it simmer for about 5 minutes. I kind of mashed it around while I was cooking it and letting it simmer, and now it smells amazing, and I'm going to show you how I strain it. Okay, I have it all finished. Here's my pot of yummy goodness. I wish you guys could smell this. It is super amazing. It smells so good. I don't know how anybody could not want to drink elderberry syrup because it's going to help you with so many things and keep you healthy. It's amazing. Okay, so what I do is I take the pot off of the stove and then you can use a jar, you can use a measuring cup, whatever works for you. You can use cheesecloth. I just use this thing, this little strainer thing, because I have an old cup that it fits into perfectly. Okay, so I put it in the top of this cup and then I use a ladle or a big spoon, whatever I have handy, and I literally just ladle a couple of spoonfuls into the top. Now this is probably the part that takes the longest, okay, but I let it run and then I start smashing it down with just the back of a spoon. So you can see, I want to get as much of the juice and the goodness out of these berries as I can possibly get, okay? So I just keep mashing and then I will just dump this into my compost bucket and it will go into the compost bin later. You know, I probably could feed it to my chickens. I never really thought about that. But anyway, it doesn't get wasted. It goes to the compost bin for sure. Okay, so I just push it down. And then once I dump it, I just keep doing this over and over and over again until I get it all strained out. All right, here is my jar of elderberry syrup. This has all been strained, so we got about 1 pint. Sometimes I get a little bit more, sometimes I get a little bit less. What we're gonna do now is this needs to come to room temperature. You do not want to add the honey until it is room temperature, okay? Because that'll kind of defeat the purpose of putting the honey in for those extra yummy benefits. We want it to be at room temperature, not hot, and definitely not boiling. So if you're under a time constraint and it can't come to room temperature, and it still needs to be a little bit warm, that's okay, but you definitely don't want it to be like too hot, okay? So I'm gonna let this sit a little bit, and then we're gonna add between 1/2 and 3/4 cups of honey. You know, my children like a little bit sweeter, but you can do it with 1/2 cup. It's plenty of beneficial properties with 1/2 cup, but it will sweeten it up and not be quite so bitter. But you'll still be able to taste the cinnamon and the cloves and the ginger and the elderberry, plus you're getting all the nutritional good stuff out of it to help boost your body's immune system. Okay, you guys, it looks like it is, or it feels like it is cool enough to add our honey so that we won't damage any of those healthy properties. So I have gone ahead and measured out, it's kind of between 1/2 and 3/4, I kind of compromised, probably about 2/3 of the cup of honey. And I'm literally just gonna add it to this jar. All right, so we're gonna add it to the jar. All right, it's added to the jar, and instead of stirring and dirtying another spoon, I just give it a little shake and get that honey all mixed up. And then I'm just gonna store this in the refrigerator. This will be good for my family for about 3 to 4 weeks. If I had a lot more, I would store it in 1/2 pint jars and I would get it in the freezer. And then sometimes I have a surplus when I make big batches, and I love to sell it to my local friends. You will notice that ours is not thick, okay? So I have heard some stories about people and they were like, oh my goodness, we bought some at the store and it is super thick and super gross. The flavor of ours is really amazing, I think. And it's not thick. You could thicken it if you wanted to. You could use, you know, some cornstarch or some other thickener to thicken it, but we just don't see a need to do that. And so my kids are, you know, 14, 17, and 22, and we just pour it into a little medicine cup. I still keep all of those little medicine cups, and we just take between a teaspoon and a tablespoon a day to help boost our immune systems. If we get sick, we take it as much as 4 to 5 times a day. Okay, so this is a fun, easy way to make your own elderberry syrup, and you can do this even without having your own elderberry bushes at home. Okay, it's all mixed up. You can see I actually got a little bit more than I thought I was gonna get once I added that honey. I kind of had to divide it up. I got a little bit more. So we have a jar that we'll put in the freezer, and then this will go in our refrigerator, and we will have healthy immune systems, and it's just one more tool in our tool belt to keep our family safe and healthy through the fall and winter cold, flu, and COVID season. All right, guys, thanks for joining me in my kitchen today. I hope seeing how I made elderberry syrup for my family was helpful for you guys. It's not hard. I think sometimes when we start a healthy journey or a lifestyle where we're trying to be safer and non-toxic, a lot of things sound scary and we just don't know where to start. So I'm going to encourage you to just start someplace. Start small, okay? Small steps, small changes lead to bigger, wonderful things, okay? So my family has been on this journey, this healthier, non-toxic journey for about 5 years, and we learn more and more and more every day. So thanks for joining me here in the little farm kitchen. I will drop some links below for where I get some things, just some tips and tricks that might help you along the way. Hit subscribe, please, and help me as I grow my YouTube channel and help bring Non-Toxic Farm Mom to all of your friends and family as well. Thanks a bunch. See you soon.